If I were to distill the best of what I've learned about business growth from being in the entrepreneurship space for over 10 years into 5 points, what would they be? That's the question I really parked on for a fair amount of time about a year ago. And really, I wanted to design a lesson that was extremely pragmatic on the topic of business growth, because this is one of the areas where people stall out is they want to grow their business, but they don't have the tools in the tool belt or the strategies to be able to do it in a systemized way. So that was the question I started with. And then with that question, I wanted to apply some constraints to it. And the first constraint was these points, the 5 points that I come up with, they've got to transcend industry or stage of business. I want these to be accessible to everyone. Number two, I said they've got to be immediately actionable. So what I didn't want to do is create something that involved people going and signing up for and implementing, a multi-$1,000, multi-step, multi-variable CRM, and that's how you grow your business. It's like, that's one way to do it, but that's not immediately actionable. And a lot of times when people want to grow their business, they're primed to have a bias towards action today. And so we wanted to give people something where they could really take action on that. And then finally, we said these answers that we walk through, the 5 points, they can't be stuff that everyone else is already teaching. Now, what's interesting is some of the points are going to feel really simple, but what we have done in this lesson and what we hope to do in this conversation is pull back the layers to say, okay, what is the stuff that not very many entrepreneurs and leaders are actually talking about? How do we think about business growth in a way that is intentional, sustainable, systematic, and healthy? And that's really what we're going to dive into in this conversation here today.
Before we dive into the practical, can you just define healthy growth and what the intention of healthy growth is?
Yeah. So we always say that, growth for the sake of growth is dead, right? If literally the reason for your growth is just growth in itself, that ultimately falls flat. It often doesn't work because the marketplace can smell it from a mile away, right? The 10X crowd, right? We know the 10X crowd, right? They say, I'm going to 10X my business. And we say, wow, that's such an amazing goal. Why are you pursuing that goal? Because 10X. And you're like, okay, but what's the reason? 10X! And it's like, okay, 10X is a wonderful goal. I'm fine with that goal, but it's not a good reason. And so when we say healthy growth, we say, man, your growth is meant to make you more of what the business you've created is called to be. And it's called to make you into more of the leader that you were created to be. And it's also called to make your team into more of the people they were created to be, right? So often people scale their business, and as they scale their business, that goes up into the right, but the service goes down into the right? Which is awful. And we all know examples of companies where that's occurred. I want to scale, grow, move forward in such a way that we actually get better at what we do and the way we do it in the process. And that is totally possible. Everything we talk about today is possible under the umbrella of healthy growth. It just always requires a leader that is deeply committed and exercises really intense, extreme intentionality.
So for someone listening to this episode, what are some questions that we want them to be able to answer at the end of this?
Yeah, so we'll ask these 3 questions at the end because this is like we're teaching a lesson here. I want you, whether you're on a run, you're in the car, maybe you listen to this in the shower, that's kind of weird, but that's okay, right? Wherever you're listening to this, I want you to be thinking to yourself, I'm not listening to this just for entertainment. It can be entertaining, and hopefully it is entertainment, but you are taking a lesson right now. And a lesson is only valuable if on the backside of that lesson, you take action. This is rubber to the road, right? And so the first question we're going to ask you is, which of the 5 keys do you want to focus on? And all of them is not an appropriate answer. You have to choose one. So which of the 5 keys are you going to focus on? What is one specific action you're going to take? We're going to give you a ton of practical actions in this. That's like the point of this lesson. And so I want you to choose one action. And then I want to ask you, when are you going to take that action? And I don't know, sometime in the next 24 to 48 hours is a good answer, right? Let's not kick the can down the road on this. If you want to grow your business, you're going to have to do different things to get different results. And we're going to give you a whole host of options. This is a buffet of options of different things you can do to get different results.
So what's the first action?
Okay. The first action is one that people often overlook whenever it comes to the topic of business growth, but it's honestly the area where I think they could holy cow, just blow the lid off things, is engage your team members. Engage your team members. We teach 4 stages of business: founder, operator, CEO, owner. And so often people stall out at founder operator stage because they, as the owner of the business, are the only one on the team that is deeply passionate about growing the business. And if that's you, then yeah, your energy, passion, effort, energy, zeal, it is finite, right? Like there is a limit to how much of that you can provide. There's a limit to how many hours you have in the day. There's a limit to how many phone calls you can take during the day. And man, I've known a lot of founders that get right up to that limit. They just expend every drop of their calendar on business growth. And that's incredible, right? I admire those people a lot. But eventually you're going to hit a ceiling. And when you hit that ceiling, what you can't do is you can't say, oh, I'm actually going to start adding 48 hours a day to my calendar. It's like, you can't do that, right? And you can only make your phone calls so short, right?
Time is finite.
Exactly. And so what do we have to do? We have to start equipping and empowering and engaging others. At this point, especially if you're in the operator stage, you've got all these wonderful people that have brains, that have hearts, that have talents, that have gifts. And they could play an incredible role in growing your business, but they're not engaged. They might even be doing their job, but they're not thinking proactively about the growth of the business like you are. And as a result, your business is going to hit a ceiling and stall out until we get them off the bench and into the game.
So how do you get your team engaged?
There's a whole host of things we could do. You're our business growth guy, so I want to talk to you about this too. But I want to give a leadership answer, and then I would love for you to give a tactical answer. 3 things that people often overlook that are incredibly powerful. Number 1 is appreciation. The acronym is AIR. So number 1 is appreciation. What is appreciate? Well, when the dollar appreciates, it gains in value. Right. So when we think about appreciation, we're adding value to people, and that it's really critical to think about it that way. So we want to look for people's strengths, call attention to those strengths, and encourage them. Hey, there's stuff you can do with those strengths that can add value to customers, that can add value to our team. You could be a part of what we're doing to grow this business. Sometimes appreciation is us connecting the dots for what we see in people and how it can be connected into the growth of the business. Number 2 is inspiration. Oh my gosh. So at Dave Ramsey's company, I worked there, right? By the time I left, we had 1,000 team members. They would do our staff meeting every single Monday with all 1,000 team members. Think about how much that meeting costs for a second. And you could ask, why would they do that meeting? Well, Dave Ramsey, but also others on that team, they're effective at a lot of things. Inspiration is one thing they're really effective. And think about this. You've got 1,000 people in there. If at minimum 75% of those 1,000 people leave that Monday morning meeting after spending 60 minutes, leave that Monday meeting like 25% more motivated. You have 750 people leaving a meeting 25% more motivated because they're inspired, because they heard something that put a smile on their face, because they believe more in the importance of the work they were doing. Those people are going to be a part of growing your business. And then recognition. What you recognize as a leader, people will repeat. And so often we don't communicate to our team that business growth is a priority and what we recognize. And so we got to create rhythms, structures, formats for recognizing and celebrating business growth and the people that contribute to it. So that's the leadership stuff. I would really love to know the tactical stuff, like how do we get people into the business growth game and off the sidelines from your perspective?
I think having the right people on your team is extremely helpful.
That's right. That's right.
And I think a part of that, and we've done an episode on hiring at this point, but I think a part of that is hiring individuals who get and understand your mission and core values, and don't just get and understand them, but actually live them out, or are already living them out in their own ways. And so when you bring them on to the team, they're already passionate in many ways about what you're passionate about. Mm-hmm. And so I feel like I've really seen that. I think I understood that at a head level. I think I've seen that more practically over the last few months as we've hired 2 people in the business growth department who are, like cultural rock stars. Like they understand who we are, what we do. And then they're also individually and tactfully like passionate about the work that they're doing, even just from a job day-to-day perspective.
That's right.
And so I think that's, huge. I think you could potentially coach people into like loving the work that they do, or creating systems that would make like reduce friction in maybe the areas that they don't enjoy, or, I mean, there's a million different ways. I think role clarity is really important, but I'd say that's like, you're setting yourself up for success if that's what you're doing.
That's so good. Could I mention one thing there?
Yeah.
I heard this acronym recently. Keith Cunningham said this acronym. He said, you want to hire people. These are A players. They have HINTS. It's an acronym. High internal emotional need to succeed, right? We live in a weird time that we say, oh, I don't want to focus too much on sales and growth. And we use that as an excuse for mediocrity, right? The thing that I love about Catherine and about Shay is like, they believe in the product. They believe in the service. They're excited about what we're doing. And they're like, we want to grow this business. Like, and we are becoming as unapologetic as we've ever been of like, we believe so much in what we provide people. And like, we want to make sales. And like, that's why we're doing this, right? And man, when we get a team that's like excited about what we're providing people and it's like actively like, man, and now I just get to go tell people about these opportunities every day. It's just, that's the type of hunger that we want within our team.
One of the things I've been thinking about a lot recently as I've started to run business growth is you can't just necessarily throw them into the water and expect them to swim. Like, build them a ship that they can use to then accomplish the mission. And so like getting into the business and thinking, how can I be setting these people up in their roles from an efficiency and just like a structure perspective to be successful at what they're supposed to be doing? I think, and then as a part of that, like welcoming them into the conversation and asking them like, hey, I've built this system. Like, does this work for you? How would you change it if you wanted to change it? What makes your job easier? And really just being curious with them from their perspective on, like because I'm not sitting in any of their seats at this point, seeing the day to day, seeing the processes and parts of their day that they're like, oh, now I have to do this, or this is the part of my day that I avoid because it just takes extra time. Like, being curious, asking them questions, like, where is their inefficiency in what you're doing? Like, what is taking up most of your day and your time right now? Is there a way for us to create a system that eliminates that and makes it more efficient so that you have the space and the capacity to both grow as an individual and a leader and also just have more fun and do more in your role?
That's right. And part of that too is part of the structure is role clarity, like giving people crystal clear role clarity on what do you need to accomplish to be successful in this role, giving them the ability to track how they're doing compared to those results. And then here's a big one that a lot of people miss, and they wonder why their team members aren't engaged in the topic of business growth. Tie compensation to role clarity, right? Like, don't say these results matter and then not pay based on the results. Find a way to have a performance-based element to the comp model associated with the role. And I mean, that combined with value and mission alignment, that alone is, I actually think, in a basic business growth role is all you need. Mission value alignment and compensation tied to the role clarity and a desire to take on the role. If you have all of that, you can train everything else. Now, you might want to find someone with background of sales experience or marketing experience or whatever you're doing, and that's fine, but you don't have to. That's what's so cool is you can train everything else if you have those things.
Let's move on to the next one.
Okay, the next one is look for RRO. So you could go Google this acronym and I will tell you, unless I've written something that's online, you will not find an answer to what this stands for. That's because I just realized, man, I was working with so many small business owners in particular that were spending so much time trying to reach total strangers. Like, they were spending so much time, energy, and by extension, money trying to reach total strangers, people that had not heard about their business in any form or fashion. And what we often found is there was RRO. And what I mean by RRO is resting revenue opportunities. It's like it is so expensive and so time consuming to take a total stranger from, they have no clue who you are, to even knowing you, but even from knowing you, paying attention to you, and from paying attention to you to trusting you and then working with you, that is like a multi-month process oftentimes. And certainly we should have systems, and we'll talk more about this later, that engage in that process, because I think that's really, really good and necessary oftentimes, especially if you want to scale and grow your business. But what I often see is, man, if we would just get more dialed in at how we talk to and engage with the existing opportunities that are already on our email list, that we're already connected to on LinkedIn, that are already listening to our podcast, that are already connected to the people we currently do work with. If we just say, how do we get better at the way we communicate to and build trust with those people? What I often see, I mean, I've seen people grow their business by a multiple by just focusing on that. And so really the core question is, man, where's the revenue? Like, where are the people that would gladly want to work with you? They just need to hear in the most clear, simple, stated way what you actually do and how it connects to the problems that they're facing.
How do you distill your language down in a way that it's that transferable to get from point A, which would be you, to maybe point B, which is your current customers and people you have a relationship with, and then beyond that?
Yeah. Well, I mean, there's a multitude of ways that you could do this. The single best answer to that question that I've ever found is How to Build a Story Brand by Donald Miller. I mean, that guy wrote the book, he did it, right? And we don't need to rewrite that book. Like, he did it. He nailed it, right? And to that end, like, working with someone that's a story brand guide, if you're at the stage where you're going to outsource this, like, we're working with business builders right now. That team is spectacular, and they've gone through the story brand certification process. If you're at a certain stage of business, you don't need to master this yourself. You need to be decent at it, but you need to find the people that are masters at it. But here's kind of 4 things that you can do that would help you in this area of seizing resting revenue opportunities. Number 1 is just write an email that empathizes with the customer. So I see you, I hear you, I get you. You want them to read this email and be like, this person just read my mail. They literally wrote a personalized letter to me, and like, I'm now checking my house for cameras because it feels like they're listening into my conversations, right? So write an email that empathizes with your customer, describes how you solve their problem or their frustration. Like, I mean, you want to agitate the pain they're experiencing because that's part of getting it. And then you want to say, here's how what we do directly solves that problem. And then offer a clear CTA. Don't be bashful. Offer a clear CTA and send it to your entire email list, right? I knew a guy once that did this, and his backlog became so huge he couldn't keep up with it, and he had to start turning people down because he couldn't keep up with it, right? Now, I don't know that everyone's going to have that experience, right? But that's such a good example of resting revenue opportunities. So the next one is create a product guide that defines your word of mouth strategy and share it with your team. The phrase word of mouth strategy is not original to me. I heard this years ago and I thought it was so good. It's like, most business for effective and successful small businesses comes through referrals. We know that to be true. And yet most business comes through word of mouth, yet we don't have a word of mouth strategy. And we've got, upwards 10, 20, maybe even 30 people on our team that have never been trained and equipped on here's how we talk about what we do to the people in our community. And what's crazy is your team members are going to their kids' baseball games, they're going to church, they're going to the grocery store, they're getting on elevators, and everywhere they go, the first questions people might ask them is, where do you live? Where are you from? Then they might say, nice weather. And then eventually, if they're stuck on that elevator long enough, they will say, what do you do? Mm-hmm. And oh my gosh, if we're not equipping people with how we answer that question, you are leaving dollars on the table without a shadow of a doubt. Because that person might not need what you do, but there's a pretty good chance that person knows someone that needs what you do. And if we don't even talk about what we do in a way that's compelling, persuasive, engaging, and clear, we're leaving money on the table.
Yeah. So we recently went through, you walked us through, I guess a revamped or newer version of our word of mouth strategy.
Yeah. You walked us through the revamped creation of our word of mouth strategy. I walked us through okay, here's how we're going to talk about this.
So I guess, what are the questions you're asking yourself when you're looking at your products, what you're offering, and then you're trying to create memorable word of mouth strategy.
Yeah. So what I would say is if you're at the founder or operator stage, I'm going to give you enough to be dangerous. If you're at that operator, like transitioning to CEO and even beyond that stage, then I really would recommend you work with a professional to do this, right? Now, the stage that we're at right now, it's like we had the tools that we needed to make this more intentional. And now we're even doubling down working with business builders to get even more precise and specific. But here's what we've got to do. We got to know who the ICP is, right? The ideal customer profile. So I don't want, for us, what we don't want to say is, our ICP is business owners and the leaders they want to develop. Like that's not good enough, right? What we need to get clear on is business owners and the leaders that they want to develop. It can be any industry, but they've got to be probably doing over $1 million in annual revenue, all the way up to about 20 million in annual revenue. We've got people on both ends of that, but that's our sweet spot, right? And they've got to be interested in a few things. They've got to be interested in healthy growth. They've got to be interested in their business being impact driven, and they've got to be interested in the faith-based nature of the way we do things. Within that, they really want to focus on making that transition from operator to CEO, which means they're desiring to establish systems and structures that make their business more scalable, more profitable, and less owner dependent. You see, I could have just said, we work with business owners. No way, right? And so we're going to get really clear on our ICP. I gave you ours. What is yours, right? And then from there, you want to get really intimately aware of what the problems they're facing are, or what the frustrations they have are. And here's the secret sauce. Trey Shinneman said this on our podcast. He said, your message is not in your mind. Your message is in your market. And what that means is a lot of times we've got customers, or we've got people that we want to be our customers, and we say, man, I'm going to go into this quiet room and think of this really clever way to talk about their problem that maybe it rhymes, or maybe it's like, that's kitschy, like that's kind of fun, or like, that kind of makes me laugh a little bit. And what this statement says is your message is not going to be found in your clever thinking time in the room. Your message will be found in talking to your ICP and figuring out how do they talk about their problems and frustrations. And then don't do anything to it, right? So often we say, okay, that's what they said. Now I need to go wordsmith it. No, don't wordsmith it. The words they say need to be the names of your products. It needs to be what's on your website. It needs to be in the way you talk about their product. And then it needs to be directly connected to the way you provide the solution. The final thing we should absolutely hit home on this, because it's one of the things that distinguishes healthy growth, is the single best way to take advantage of resting revenue opportunities is to make sure your solution is like the world's greatest solution. Because then all you have to do is just talk about what you do and equip other people to talk about what you do. So, really double down on making sure your service is world-class.
That particularly has made my job very easy.
Good.
I just passed a year with Path for Growth, I think, and stepping into a company that was so well established in team culture, core values, what you did, but then beyond that, like one-on-one coaching, which is really our bread and butter of what we do, and that's the profile you just described. Like that's who we serve in one-on-one coaching. Was already so, it was so systemized, it was so smooth. It was like, if I just get someone in a room with a coach and they fit that demographic.
ICP,
like it's going to be a home run. I'm like zero question.
Yeah.
Like they're going to be successful. And so that gave me so much confidence that as we brought on a salesperson and we've built the team out and we've continued to build more products and things, like that's given us and gave me the security and peace of mind that like, I know that if I have these conversations with these business owners and I get them in a room with a coach and we're speaking to their pain points, like it's going to be a home run. Like the system we have works, and it works really, really well.
That's right. Yeah. I would ask people, do you have salespeople on your team? And the answer to that is yes, right? Is what I would tell people. Like you do have salespeople on it might be you, but you have salespeople on your team. And if you thought no to that, you have to shift that mindset. Everyone on your team is in sales, right? So then what is fuel for a salesperson? What is gasoline for a salesperson? confidence. They have to have confidence. And I've been in a position before where my comp is tied to selling something that I don't actually believe in, and it's miserable. And it cuts your confidence off at the knees, and man, and then you just struggle, you flounder. So if you can create something that empowers everyone on your team with confidence of, man, we don't just do what we say we do. We go above and beyond in terms of what we provide. Oh my gosh, you're unlocking the door to so much business growth.
Let's do the next action.
Okay, the next action is going to be shocking to people. If you want to grow your business, what do you have to do? The third key, this is going to blow you away. Increase sales. Has your jaw hit the floor yet? Are you just like shocked right now? Yeah. Okay, here's the thing is what's crazy is every single time I've done this talk, I give this point and people think they know what I'm talking about. But then I always ask the question, how do you increase sales? And I have them yell back at me. And without a shadow of a doubt, the first answer that always comes up is get more customers. And I say, boom, that's my point, right? That is one way to increase sales. That is one way to increase top line revenue. Here's what I also want people to know is your impulsive answer to how do we increase sales is the single most expensive, costly, and time-intensive way to grow your business. Acquiring new customers is the most expensive thing you can do. It's the most expensive way to increase sales, right? Does that mean we shouldn't do it? Absolutely not. You've got to do it. And I want you to do it. And we're going to give you tools to be able to do that. But taking strangers to prospects, to customers, much less to raving fans, that is a long, costly, time-intensive, multi-month process, oftentimes, depending on what you're selling. And so that is one of three ways to increase sales. How else do you increase sales? Number two is increase average transaction value. So oftentimes, listen to this real quick. There are people right now that are doing business with you that would love to do more with you and to do better things with you if you would just offer it to them. This blew my mind. We had our best year, according to every metric, in the history of the business last year. And so much of that growth just came from us telling people that we were already doing business with, hey, if you would like to do more, this is what's available to you. Oh my gosh. People were like, what? You do that for us too? And it's like we had a line. It was like, oh my gosh, this is so great. And I couldn't see it. I had to have a mentor tell me, Alex, these people want to do more with your company. You just got to stop being so rigid and putting things in a box. You just got to start solving their problems. So good, right? And so increase average transaction value. We all know this. There's a really slimy way to do that none of us want to take part in. There's also a really generous, customer-focused, good way to do that. And I would encourage you to focus on that. And then next is increase transaction frequency. Keith Cunningham, who I've already referenced in this talk, I just went to it's one of the best business and business growth kind of teachings seminars I've ever been to. He's 76. And he said, let me ask you this question. So convicting. He's like, how big would your business be today if you had every customer still that ever worked with you? And he said, man, you know, some of us think we've got a funnel. In reality, we've got a colander. And what's a colander? It's like we get all these people and then they just fall out the bottom, right? And we're spending all this time trying to get all these new people. And in reality, maybe we need to get better at re-engaging the people that we've already done business with in some capacity. So there's three ways to increase sales: acquire new customers, increase average transaction value, which means you got to measure it if you're going to do that, and then increase transaction frequency.
How, from a tactical perspective, could you do that?
Yeah. You know what I love is I love the restaurants that you've had a great dinner. They've provided you an excellent service. You've solved the problem that you came there to solve. So that's the first key. And then after they've solved the problem, they don't even just bring out a dessert menu. They bring out a dessert cart and say, I thought you might want to see our desserts that we have available. And they're like, would you like to take part in one of these desserts? So this person has already over-delivered on what I came in and expected for. Now they're bringing out the dessert carts and them having a part of their process that is, I'm going to tell you about the desserts and I'm going to show you the desserts. They are selling desserts there. What does that do? That increases the average ticket price for people that engage at that restaurant. And I bet you minimum 25% more people buy dessert because of the process they have in place.
I've never had that happen, but it'd be game over.
Yeah, right? Yeah, exactly. Game over. Tableside guacamole is another option, right? And it's like, oh my gosh, I see the other people getting guacamole, right? I wasn't going to get guacamole, but they do it tableside. They've now increased average transaction value, right? And that's a good example of like, I don't feel like I've been strong-armed into ordering guacamole, right? Like, but they increased average transaction value. That's a good example. And then increased frequency of buying. I've actually heard of restaurants that they say our strategy is not getting people in the door the first time. That is not what our marketing strategy is built around. They said our marketing strategy is built around getting people into the restaurant the third time. And so the first time you come, we're going to crush your experience for sure, but then we're also going to give you a coupon that you can use at your second time you come. And then you're going to come back because you've got that coupon. And when you come back, anytime someone uses that coupon, number one, we're going to remember your name. And then number two, we're going to say, oh, if you come again, you're going to get a free dessert or something like that the next time you come. And the reason why this particular restaurant did that is because they said, we know, all of our data suggests that if we can get people to come 3 times, they're a lifetime customer at that point, because we know we crush it. And we're just building the habit of us becoming their preferred option, right? That's increasing transaction frequency. So instead of getting 1 billion people to come one time, and that's the only time they come, we can get 1 million people and they just come, over and over and over again. We're building a base for our business.
I feel like this segues well into the fourth one.
It does, yeah. Understand and amplify satisfied customers is the fourth key to grow our business. This was us for a while. We had all of these people that loved what we did, that bought from us again, that, man, they did coaching with us, and then they came to experiences. And I was such a dummy. I can't believe this. I never talked to these people. And of course I was talking to them, right? I was at experiences, I was on coaching calls, but I never asked them the question, what is it that you love so much about Path for Growth? This is such a dummy, right? And then the first time I did that, it was, number one, the most motivational call I've ever been on to grow my business. I just started, people were gushing, right? But then number two, I was like, oh, this is what we've got to focus on, right? I was just making guesses of why people love us. And some of them were probably correct, but also I was probably also spending time, energy, resources on some things that weren't actually aligned with what people actually love about us. When I started to actually ask people, what is it that's making this so great? And what are your thoughts on how we could amplify that, how we could make that better? Oh my gosh, people were lining up with ideas and thoughts and encouragement and all of that. And so understand, why are your satisfied customers satisfied? And then once you figure that out, don't assume that you know it, amplify that, double down on that.
Beyond just calling customers, are there ways that you can do that efficiently?
I don't know, maybe I would just call them. Yeah. I think that's a pretty good one, right? And then that's the actions I would give people, call them.
Yeah.
Give them a call, say, they're going to be so blown away. You're going to call them and you're going to spontaneously call them. You're not going to schedule a call with them, spontaneously call them. Be like, hey, my name's Alex. We've met before, but I'm the CEO of Path for Growth. I was wondering if you had 20 minutes. Be like, oh my gosh, really? Is this AI? And be like, no, this isn't AI. What can I do? What can I do right now to convince you this isn't AI, right? And then you want to thank them. I just want to thank you so much because, man, our business is built on existing customer relationships, and our business is built on people not just getting good content. We know there's value in content, but as people that implement and execute content in service of other people to grow as a leader and to grow their business, that's what our business is built on. And I'm calling you just to say thank you because you are doing that. And I'm so grateful for that because you are literally a poster child of why we started this business. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And then just say, if you've got a few minutes, I just want to ask you questions to understand, I know you've said your experience has been good. I want to understand why. And I also want to understand if there's ways we can improve and continue to grow. And then on the back end of that, they gave you 20 minutes of their time. You've asked them a bunch of great questions. You're going to send them a coffee gift card to their favorite coffee shop afterwards and just say, thanks so much for your time. You are getting a treasure trove of information. And you are also taking someone that is satisfied and you're giving them an opportunity to articulate, to be a part of the growth of your business, to contribute to your business moving forward and reaching new people, that person's going to become more of a raving fan just in hearing themselves talk about their experience with your company.
What was one like light bulb moment for you in those conversations as it pertains to Path for Growth?
I'll never forget. And this is, I called people after one of our experiences and just asked them about like their experience at the experience and what was valuable to them, what were things we can improve, right? Our experiences are one of those things that it's just like the frequency of return customers that we have, like it's nuts. It's crazy, right? Like, and I mean, that's what makes our experiences what they are. Yeah. So we want to keep that going. So we got to understand what is it that they're getting out of this. And man, I could point to a couple examples. One is I spoke to Matt Aiken when he was a customer. He's now a coach for us. He was a customer at the time, and he used the word diagnostic. He said, "You gave me a diagnostic, and you didn't just give me content, you gave me something that I could evaluate my leadership and business and my life through, and then you gave me time and space to evaluate." And it was like this massive look in the mirror moment for me, paired with an opportunity to talk and converse with people that I really trusted and respected. He said that was invaluable to me. And I took that and I was like, oh my gosh, he's so right. Like whenever we have a diagnostic, people lean in, they get quiet, they write, they learn, they grow. And that was something that was not that was something we were haphazardly doing. That I left that call, I was like, we have to be doing that type of thing all the time. Like diagnostics have to be part of our tool belt in everything we do, not even just experiences. And they are now. They're about to become more because of some of the work you're doing. Praise God. So that was one. The other one that is really critical is I talked to so many people that they said, man, the content was so good. You know, the food was wonderful. The people there were wonderful. They're like, Pikes Peak changed my life. Pikes Peak changed my life. So we do a 13-mile hike up to the top of Pikes Peak. And we'd done that one-off times. And we were planning future experiences. And we're like, people keep telling us Pikes Peak changed my life. Like, we don't have to go rethink the wheel every time. We just need to do that on a repeat. We need to keep doing that. So we're doing it again in August, right? Like and we'll put the link to the experience in the show notes if you want to join us. People just said over and over again, that was something different. And I want to do more of that. And I want to do that again. And so we said, we're going to start listening to the people that are just over the moon with us about what's changed, like what's made them so attracted to what we're doing at Path for Growth. And then we're going to amplify and we're going to double down. And people better buckle up because we're going to amplify the Pikes Peak experience this year. I think it's going to be really good.
Let's move on to the last one here.
Okay. The fifth key, budget to exceed expectations. So let's just give a quick story with this one. You go to McDonald's. Hopefully you don't go to McDonald's, but let's pretend you go to McDonald's, right? You go to McDonald's and you order a large fry, right? You get the large fry, and what is it? They give you a container that holds French fries, and the container is hopefully filled with French fries, and hopefully they're warm, right? Let's not talk about the way yeah. Let's not talk about the way they deliver those French fries or the attitude or the cleanliness of the store. Let's not talk about that. Okay. Now, what's interesting is you go in the street and you go to a place called Five Guys. Have you been to Five Guys? You've been to Five Guys before. Five Guys is like literally, if I run a marathon, people ask me what I want to eat afterwards, Five Guys. For sure, Five Guys, right? And Five Guys is also a burger joint, right? And say you order a medium French fry. What's interesting is what do you get? You get a bag, and in that bag, it's literally like, you're like, I don't know how this is possible, but the bag is already soaked because there's grease on the outside of the bag. But then you look inside the bag, and what's really interesting is there's a cup, right? And that cup is full with French fries. But then the cup is overflowing. There is more French fries in there than there is cup. They could not possibly fit the number of fries they gave you into the cup that they gave you. And what's crazy is I've done this now because I paid attention to this. I go to Five Guys with people, and every single time people open that bag, they get this big, huge grin on their face. I mean, goofy grin. And they say, this is crazy. Look how many fries they gave me. It's like, and then they always say, why do they even put the cup in there? Like, this is wild. Like, so many French fries. And why do they put the cup in there? The cup sets expectations. The cup is literally a vessel that says, this is how many French fries you're supposed to get. And then they just budget to exceed those expectations. They overflow that cup every time. They know how many fries they're giving you. And if they just gave you that fries in a bag, you wouldn't be so blown away. It's because they overflowed the expectations that they themselves set. It's one of the best examples I've ever seen of someone in the moment setting expectations, exceeding expectations, and people being radically delighted in the process.
Before we close, let's just revisit what are those questions that we had at the beginning of the episode?
Yeah, well, before we close, I would say people need to go get some French fries. I think that's what I want to do.
I'm hungry.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, so here's the questions. Which of the 5 keys do you want to focus on and why? And I would tell you probably don't focus on them alone. Get your team members to listen to this podcast. We love when people share this with their team. What is one specific action you could take related to this key to grow your business this week? And then when are you going to take that action, right? Don't make this something that it's like, oh, that was entertaining and fun. And Alex and Ben told some stories, but now I'm going to go back to business as usual. If you do that, don't expect your business to grow. If you want your business to grow, you're going to have to do different things. And that just looks like practical action, which you've got a whole host of options now. So it's time to get to work.
Awesome. Thanks, Alex.
Yes, sir. Thank you. Hey, y'all, thanks so much for watching. If you want more content like this, we've got some killer stuff planned. So make sure you rate, review, and subscribe. Let's go, let's go, let's go.